Lab 6, Android Studio Development. This is the Dine Out app, and we're going to focus on the user interface design for this part of the lab. So for the Dine Out app, I'm kind of showing an example of it running. It'll have a few buttons on it, 4 buttons for breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack. And then we'll have some checkboxes for the different types of restaurants, or if you have any special food conditions to kind of narrow or filter your search. Okay, so let's kind of think about the overview of what we need to do. Again, we're just going to quickly run through the quick start for the Dine Out app. We'll create a new project, set up the details. And we should be ready to start. So there's going to be multiple activities that we're going to be creating. The first one, which is just the activity main. And inside of activity main, we're going to use a linear layout. So when we look at the layout over here, we're going to have a linear layout so that it just keeps kind of tacking on the buttons below it in a linear fashion, and then the labels for each one of these columns, and then we'll actually use a linear layout inside of a linear layout, so we'll have an inner one, and then again we'll use it for all these also. So think about it like this, right? These will be linear layouts. So we'll work on that. We'll put all the button widgets on there. We'll create that inner linear layout. We've got some more checkboxes here, and for the restaurant, special food conditions. Then we'll create some new activities for the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner, and we'll also create a snack. And then we'll just run the project, make sure that at least the UI is ready to go. In the next Lab 7, we'll put the code behind all of the activities. Okay, so let's start out, and what we want to do, we're just going to create a new Android project. So I'm going to start a new Android Studio project, and the application name, I'm going to call it Dine Out, and I'm just going to put Oak on it for my last name. Again, same thing, target 404, KitKat, blank activity, and the title, I'm going to call it Dine Out App. Let's call it Dine Out Oak App. Okay. And we can leave the activity name alone, main activity. I think that is descriptive enough to let us know. But when we start to create the other activities, which is something new that we're doing, you'll see that that's how we're going to do it. The dialog box will look very similar to this. You can just click on Finish. Okay, while that's starting up and building everything, let's kind of continue on with the lecture here. So yeah, we're going to kind of step through it, create the Dine Out. This one I just called Robot. Okay. And then again, we'll select the minimum Android version we want for the project. Select a blank activity. Put in our title. Okay, good. So the first thing we want to do is think about our layout for the user interface. We want to think about the widgets that would work best for our design, and we're going to use a linear layout, and we're going to set that to be a vertical type of linear layout because that'll work nice for each of those dining buttons, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. We'll make those buttons to handle the clicking actions, and then we'll put some checkboxes in for the restaurant selection and the special food conditions column. So the first thing we need to do is open up the XML markup for the activity_main.xml file. We'll create a basic structure using a linear layout in that. Okay, so let's move this so we can see it. and we'll click on, we have activity main here open, and we're going to remove all of this, and we're going to start out with a linear layout. And let's make sure we get rid of that, and I would need to close the linear layout. There we go. And everything that we do is going to go inside that. So when we look at it, we have our linear layout, right? And then inside here is where we're going to start to put in our buttons. So the nice thing about a linear layout, it just keeps adding on to whatever we've defined, and we don't have to worry about positioning and things like that. So the orientation for this is going to be vertical for the linear layout, and other than that, pretty much you can go with the default values. I don't think we really need to change much there. So for the first button that I'm going to put on here inside of the linear layout, it's just going to be the breakfast. So make sure that the way I have it set up, I gave it an ID of BTN breakfast. The text will just say breakfast on there. And I have set up an on click so that when we click on this, you'll see we're going to create an on click method for breakfast that will handle this. And we're just going to add the rest of those buttons that are needed. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and see where we're at. So again, we're in the activity main.xml file. We're going to add the 4 buttons and breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. Make sure we give them proper IDs. All right, when we look at it, so make sure that you give them IDs that match this, because when we do the code behind, then everything will line up. And I just did BTN to do Hungarian notation. The text, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack, and that's basically what we have right here, and a snack. Okay, so there's our 4 buttons. Pretty easy to lay down pretty quickly. I centered them so that they appear in the center. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So the next thing that we want to do is create where the 2 columns are going to be for the restaurants and the special food conditions. So we're going to add inside of our linear layout an inner linear layout. So this inner linear layout will be set to a horizontal orientation, shown in blue. So the way you can think about this is the blue area there, we're setting up a horizontal orientation for these columns, and then we're going to use another linear layout that which are the red ones shown. So we're creating another one, and then an inner one, and then we'll have even another inner one that will be used for our checkboxes. Okay, so right now what we need to do is first create a linear layout that'll be horizontal, right? And we'll center that. So let's make sure we have all of our buttons. So let's go over to our project. And I still have to kind of finish up putting all the buttons on there. So we'll put the buttons in. So we've got the breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. And just make sure that it looks pretty good. They're all centered. They all have IDs, right? Just kind of check your work. Make sure it all looks good. Okay. And let's see. Okay. Looks pretty good. So we'll go down. And what we need to do is inside of the linear layout here, right, we're going to create an inner linear layout. And we want to then close it, right? Okay. Good. So if we were to look here, we would see that we just created an inner linear layout that is horizontal. And we're doing this because we're going to create those two columns for the checkboxes. So inside of this linear layout, we're going to add another linear layout, but this one is going to be vertical. So when we look now, we have a horizontal linear layout and then a vertical one inside. So we got to make sure that everything is closed. All right. All right, good. So good. So we have 3 closing linear layouts because we have the outer one, and then I created an inner one, and then even an inner one, which is going to be used when we look at this, right, for our 2 columns. The first column is going to be the restaurants. The second column will be the special food conditions. So we're going to use the text views to basically just create column labels for that. Okay, so the first one that we want to do is the restaurant. So let's create the restaurant. Okay. So inside our linear layout, I'm going to create, let's go. Okay. All right. So when we take a look at this, inside that linear layout, I have my text view, which is really just going to be a label. And it's just going to say restaurants. We don't really care about the ID because we're not going to be changing it in the code behind. All right, so the next thing that we need is another linear layout that would be used for the next column. But before we do that, let's see. Here we have, okay. So why don't we follow along and we'll just add another linear layout while we're doing that. Okay, so we're going to make it vertical. Okay, so I tab over and create another linear layout, and let's make sure, oops, there we go. Okay, so what we have now is this is the first column, and now I've started the second column. I'm just going to line that up and save your work. All right, so let's create the label for the text view for the second column. And let's take a look at what we have so far. All right, so we have the special food conditions and we have the restaurants column. These are going to be our labels. Again, we don't care about the IDs because they're not used in the code behind. And they're just going to be enveloped. If you look at text view, is enveloped inside our linear layouts. And we have the orientation set to vertical for both. And that looks good. Let's save our work. Now, what we need to do is, this is where we're at in the PowerPoint presentation. We need to start, we have our 2 columns, we need to start adding some of the checkboxes. So let's add the first set of checkboxes. We got fast food, casual dining, cafe, diner, cafeteria, buffet, and a bar. And pretty much all these checkboxes are the same, except for we're going to make sure the ID is different, right, so that they can be referenced in the code behind. The on clicks are very important. Again, in the code behind, we're going to use the on click to actually do something to fire off an event when that is clicked on. So they will all have on click events. The text should just say fast food or casual dining or cafe, depending on what it is. So that shouldn't be too bad for the first set. We'll add all those in. And again, in the interest of time, I'm going to paste those in. So underneath the text view in the first linear layout column, I just pasted in, and this is for the restaurants. So I'm inside linear layout, right? And you could, if you wanted to, put in some comments if you felt like that would kind of help keep it organized. Okay, so we have our restaurants text view here. We have our checkbox for the fast food, which if we look, we're doing fast food, casual dining, cafe. So we just added all those to our project. And you can just kind of go down the line. It's a little repetitious, but just make sure the IDs match, right? The proper naming conventions with the prefix, and then I've got it set kind of for title case there. Okay, so we have all of our checkboxes added. Now we have to do the next column, which is the special food conditions. So there's 4 of those: food allergy, vegetarian, religious requirements, and medical condition. So let's add that to the next linear layout. Again, underneath the text view is where we're going to be working. So let's go down to the linear layout underneath the text view, and right there is where we need to have those checkboxes. So we'll add the food allergy, vegetarian, religious, medical. And remember, make sure that the text is proper, the ID is proper, and that you set up the on-click to kind of match what we've been following. I have on-click food allergy, on-click vegetarian, on-click religious, on-click medical. Okay, and they're all enveloped inside that inner linear layout. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is to create a few activities, new activities. So what you want to do is, in your project, you want to go over to this particular folder, right? And you want to, under layout, right click, and what you can then do is say new activity, blank activity, then change the layout to be activity underscore breakfast, and change the title to be breakfast activity. All right, so let's bounce over, and we're going to go to app res layout. So here we are. Here's app res layout. So I'm going to right click on it and say new, and we're creating a new activity, and we'll do a blank activity. And what we want to do then is give the activity a name, and the name that we said, let's just kind of move, let's bounce over. We said we were going to call the activity name breakfast activity. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just click finish, and we should see breakfast activity appear right over here underneath the layout. Right, so now we have breakfast activity, and we're going to have to do this for the snack, the dinner, and the lunch. What we want to do is we're going to leave the we've got the hello world there, right? So we'll change the hello world just to show breakfast. That way we know that we're on the breakfast activity. So we'll just go back over to there. and instead of hello world, let's change that so it says breakfast, just so we know that we're on the breakfast, and then save your work. All right, let's do the same for lunch, for dinner, and for snack. Same exact operation, right? Blank activity, change it so that the activity name matches. We'll just call it lunch activity. Okay, so we'll do that real quick here. We'll just say new activity, blank activity. We got lunch. Take the 2 off the end. That looks good. Finish. Right click, new activity, blank activity. Do dinner. Get rid of the 2. Finish. And the last one, new activity, blank activity, and we'll do snack. And finish. All right, so let's go through each one and make sure that that they say what they are. So we'll do lunch. Instead of hello world, I'm going to change the value to be lunch, just so we know. And dinner's the last one. I need to change, and I'm going to say dinner. Oops, dinner. Okay. So when we look at it, we have now 5 activities, and we have breakfast, dinner, lunch, main, and snack. And I changed the text in the text view for each one of these, just so we could see that we are on those particular areas, activities. Okay, so save all your work, make sure everything is saved. And there's dinner, and there's snack. Great. So let's run the app and make sure it looks okay. We will wire all the connections up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the code behind, which will be the next lab. So let's see. I think we have it running. Here we go. And that's what it should look like when you run it. You should see your buttons. You should see your columns. And it's all using a linear layout, which is something new that we just learned. And we learned how the UI would look. So that is Lab 6. I hope you were successful. And if you had any problems, please be sure to email me.